What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be continuing the build on our custom twin turbo setup for the C8 Corvette. If you haven't seen the last video, I'm going to put a link down in the description for you to go check it out. But let me give you a quick recap to show you what we did. First thing you can see, we got the C8 up on quick jacks. It's all set up. We got the whole rear end stripped down. We got the whole center section torn out. The air box is gone. Down here, you can see we have both twin turbos mounted on the car. We built the mounts for both of these in the last video, and we got both twin turbos mocked up so we can start building our center section, which is what we're going to be doing in today's video, along with the two downpipes. So as you can see here on our table, we got a bunch of parts. This is all the stuff we're going to be using to build our X pipe and our downpipes. We have our cat flanges here. We got all of our turbo flanges. We got all of our reducers. We got all these different fittings. Now to show you how simple this is going to be, we're going to build this entire setup out of pre-bent pieces that I just bought off the internet. You can get these on Amazon. You can get these off a ton of different stainless suppliers that sell all this stuff. This is all 304 stainless steel. I'm going to attempt to do some TIG welding today, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the best TIG welder out there. So we're gonna at least get everything tacked together and mocked up on the car to make sure we don't have to make any additional modifications to the twin turbo mounts. They are just on there temporarily in case they have to make some minor shifts left and right. I did make measurements, or did take measurements last time from the ground to the flange here, and then the ground to the flange here. Everything's perfect. I even measured from the top, or the car, bottom of the bumper bar here, crash bar, whatever you want to call this, and I measured, you know, down to the flange on both sides. Everything seems to be perfect, but just in case we do have to make some minor tweaks, we will be able to. All right guys, for our downpipe, the components are pretty much going to consist of just a couple of different angles, different 45 with some different lengths. We are going to use our flex coupling or exhaust fitting, whatever you want to call this, in the downpipe, so that'll be part of it. We are going to use a reducer here. This is going to reduce the exhaust down to the turbo inlet size to fit the turbo flange. For our X pipe, we are going to be using these 90s here. They're going to get tacked together just like this. You can see that with our reducers here to go into the turbos. And then we are going to cut this down the center and weld all this together so that we have a conjoined X pipe. So without any further ado, let's start mocking up this center section and see what we can do about this X pipe and see how it fits. Alright guys, a little update for you. As you just saw, I attempted to do some TIG welding, and I'm not gonna lie, that is probably the hardest thing I've ever tried to do. But I eventually gave up and just decided to do some tack welding. So my tacks came out pretty good. I think it held together, it held it enough to cut it. But as you can see, I did end up cutting our holes here for the X pipe. I didn't film this part because it was pretty difficult. I'm not gonna lie, I ended up using a chop saw to get this cut. I clamped the pipe in the vise of the saw. I used an Evolution saw. I ended up cutting about 3/4 of the way through it, and then I had to finish it with a grinding wheel and a flap disc. But as you can see, I mean, that's pretty much perfect. I don't think there's going to be any issues with that. It mates up perfectly together. So the next thing we're going to do is actually tack weld these two parts together. That one's upside down, but this table's not perfect. But as you can see, I mean, that's pretty damn tight. So we're going to get this tacked together, and then we're going to test fit this on the car and see if we need to add any additional length here before we weld onto our turbo V-band flanges. So let's see how this works out. All right guys, and there it is. As you can see, everything fit up absolutely perfect. I did have to end up cutting some 5/16 additional length here out of some stainless steel tubing I had. So I cut that, tacked that in, everything fits up perfect. It's ready to be like finished welded. I did tape this extension on here because I am starting to mock up how I want the tips to run. So we are gonna do a slip fitting here. It'll slip on like that, so we do have a little bit of play. And then we'll use another 45 to basically 45 back up this way, and then route the exhaust up and around by this air filter here, and use the factory, you know, exhaust holes that are on the bumper. So everything fits perfect. It's super awesome the way it's all sitting. This is the wastegate here. The wastegate's gonna fit up inside the bumper. Sorry, it's a little dark up there, but it's gonna fit up there, something like this, and then dump itself down through the X pipe like some of the other systems out there on the market. So I think that's the easiest way to do it. That's the way the way I choose to do it. But with that all being said, the next step is to start mocking up our downpipes. So once the downpipes are in, then we basically have the full exhaust portion of this turbo completely finished. And if you come up here, you can see I did pull the factory studs off of the cat flange here. Those things were stripped. I got them stripped pretty much from the factory. When I did my aftermarket exhaust, I fought those studs. They were like bent and stripped, and they're just a mess. So I pulled those out. I replaced them with some just normal hardware you can get at, I think I got these at AutoZone, if I'm not mistaken, but they have them on the shelf. You can bolt them up. So I did already bolt up the flanges that we're going to be using to run our pipe down to connect to the turbo down here. So coming over to our fabrication table, I did start mocking it up, and it looks like we're going to be able to build this entire downpipe with just pre-ordered angle pieces. There's going to be like one piece of this entire system that's going to need to be cut and put into the the parts here, but it's not going to be very hard. I'll mock this up right now so you can kind of see what it's going to look like, and I'll be right back. And there it is. So as you can see, these are all the same parts that were just sitting here. I have them all taped together just to kind of show you what I was talking about. But I've already test fit this in the car. It seems to be perfect. I will have to cut a small, maybe 2-inch section from here to the flange inside the car over there. But that's it. I mean, that's pretty much how both downpipes are going to be built, out of just these pre-bent angles, and they work perfect. No cutting, no fabrication required. You just gotta slip them in, twist them to where they fit. I did put like indexing marks on these, if it'll focus, kind of like right there, so you can see. So everything lines up. I know where it needs to go back into place when I come over here and weld it, and then we can test fit this thing in the car. So I'm gonna start tacking this thing together, and we'll see how it fits. Alright guys, and as you just saw, we just finished fabbing up the first downpipe, and I actually jumped ahead a little bit. I didn't want to bore you guys with so much of the same repetitive angle of me just sitting there welding. It's kind of boring, so I jumped ahead. Let's take a look at where we stand now. As you can see, we have both downpipes completely put together. We have our X pipe completely put together. Everything fits up perfect. As you can see here, this X pipe literally just slides right between the turbos, and it's perfect. It fits so well. The downpipes are the exact same way. As you can see, I'm just gonna slide. This one's actually for the left side, but it's kind of hard to get up in there one-handed. All right, I had to put the camera down to actually get that up in there, but as you can see, It's mounted right up to the turbo there, fits really well. I don't have it completely bolted in place because these are going to be coming back out, but as you can see, it fits right up to the cats perfectly on this side. I'm going to throw on this side next. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. All right, and there is the other side. Sorry it's so dark, I'm trying to get some light up in there, but as you can see, our downpipe meets up with the turbo perfect, and back up on top here. Same thing as the other side. It meets up to our flange perfectly and is going to bolt up with absolutely no problem. So that's pretty much the hot side of this entire turbo system. The X pipe's going to sit in there just like this. Everything so far is working absolutely perfect. I'm having no issues at all. So that's pretty much going to do it for this video. I am going to be having these parts professionally welded. I've been messing around with TIG welding. I'm not confident enough to weld this entire system myself. I just want it to be perfect. So these are going to be sent to a local fabricator to get finish welded. And then as soon as those get back, we will continue with the cold side and oiling system. And then this can pretty much start up. That's really all there is to this. But like I said, that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. If you aren't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. It really means a lot. You're gonna have to stay tuned for the next video in this series to see this thing come together. I'm hoping we can start it once these parts are back. Like I said, we're really just down to the intake side, the cold side, and the oiling system. And then we just have to hook up the vacuum lines to our blow-off valves and wastegates. That should be pretty simple going forward. So I will see you guys in the next video.